Building and Cemetery Property Committee meeting come to order at 3:05. Will you all join me in prayer and for a moment of silence for Supervisor Clarence Simpson? Dear Lord, we ask that you bless these proceedings and that our will and action is pleasing to you. We ask that you be with the Simpson family and their recent loss. Guide and comfort them through this rough time. And now we'll take a moment of silence for Mr. Clarence Simpson. Bless that we do all that we do here, Father. Help us to even our tempers, be productive in the things we do, and we hope that everything you see here today is pleasing to you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Do you want to take up the cemetery first?
Me?
All right. Go ahead.
We've enclosed for your consideration 5 or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different policies. I think we've gotten to the point where the policies that you guys have agreed to are attached in some of our anticipated studies. The only question we have is the placement of artificial flowers and cut flowers in the cemetery. As you know, it's right now just a hodgepodge. Our policy basically says until the town manager or the keeper of the cemetery finds them unappealing. It's kind of a nebulous response. So I think we're looking for a little more guidance on when you take them down. I do like the fact that some places say that you can put wreaths and additional decorations 4 times a year: Mother's Day, Easter, Memorial Day, and Father's Day. So there are some cemeteries that permit additional, other than just flowers, in a bronze vase. I've advocated for making all the flowers be put on the headstones so we can mow around it. I think some of our last discussions, I don't think you guys were ready to go that far, but some of these cemetery policies do say you can put cut flowers or artificial flowers in an urn, either flush with the ground or an approved urn that is exposed to the, I guess, above ground, that is made out of bronze or a consistent style. I just think what we've got now with the easels and the motorcycle tires and teddy bears and stuff, we got to come up with some kind of a plan by which we don't have that. We got to have it consistent, and if the committee would like to continue to allow people to put them on the ground, I think we've got to come up with a policy of having a vase or an urn. I think a vase is the proper term, and having it flush to the ground, or a consistent style like a bronze vase that, when visible, above ground. We've got to get away from the easels and things, but if you do want to allow them, the city of Richmond, I think, is a cemetery that allows them 4 times a year. I think as much as 30 days. Now, there's also a point where the town will go in every March and clean out everything and let everybody get started again, and I think those indeed are probably important. But what we've got now doesn't matter where it is a mess. You've got graves over there with 40 or 50 cut flowers, right, and we've got to get away from that. Still, my recommendation would be to keep everything off the ground. That way it makes David's life easier. But if that's not the wishes of the citizens and the people that talk to you and you guys, if we do allow, we need to put established or consistent style vases so everybody has the same type of.
Most of those vases are in bronze pipes.
Just
most of them are. Some do are in granite on each side of the stone. You didn't mention Christmas holiday a minute ago, did you?
I don't think it was mentioned. This is a policy, I believe, that's in Richmond.
If you don't notice that cemetery at Christmas.
Excuse me, it's in Rice. It's the one that's right there in Rice. And it says, the one in Rice in Prince Edward, and it says potted plants are not permitted except for 3 days before and ending 1 week after 4 special days: Easter, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, and Father's Day.
It does mention a winter decoration.
The winter decoration is left beyond February 1st will be removed. But that falls back into the same, where they come back to the 1st of March and they remove everything. And it says, flowers are permitted 2 per grave, and this is Richmond. All plants and decorations will be picked up the 1st week of March of each year. Everything goes, and everything starts over again.
That's not a bad idea.
No, it's not a bad idea. Because most stuff has been sitting, and then you have the Easter and all those days coming in. I think that would make some sense, so you don't have those things that are sitting there for a very long time.
From what time?
March 1st every year, the town would go in there and take everything up.
Okay, and then when are they permitted to put things back?
They can, what I'm proposing to you is if you don't want to make everything on the headstone, a vase in the ground.
Well, I do. I would like to see everything off the ground, so.
It would make our life easier.
So how do we compromise? So you're saying
Allow
it,
cut flowers or artificial flowers either in a vase flush to the ground or elevated, but if it's above ground, it needs to be of a consistent style. That's a bronze vase.
can you weed eat around it?
Yeah, I think the reason you have a bronze vase is that you won't beat it up.
Well, the only way I would go along with it, my one vote, is if it's something that the town furnished.
That we provide the,
They'd be purchased from the town, and the reason I say that is, because otherwise you're going to have people putting some in the ground that weed or breaks, and the next thing you know, you end up having want a new one, and a $5
buy it
vase.
from the town.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Buy it through the town. Okay.
But me personally, I would rather, like I said, I stopped and got out and walked around, and they were absolutely gorgeous. Because you can cut the grass more often. I didn't see it all over the headstones, and so that's just me personally. Now, I do have a couple of comments and directed to Mr. Hammond. The first thing, let me tell you something. Paying me to no end to vote against you at the council meeting for those exceptions, but because of your expertise. I'm very fortunate to sit here as building property chairman and have an experienced broker and an experienced mortician. So but I hated to do that. But the fact of the matter is we didn't have anything in policy, and that's why I want to present a good policy to the council. Now we might disagree on one item, but we still need to get some kind of policy to the council. And anything that we're not 3-0 on, let's highlight that. Does that make sense? But me, I would like to see something off. I want to see something off the ground so that with the limited resources we have, we can maintain the armory. We don't have the resources to move 30 different declarations and weed around them and put them back. And then you never put them back to suit somebody. It's just always, and you go over there and there's beer cans as part of a memorial. It's just no place for it. So me personally, I would rather see nothing on the ground. If you wanted to have cut flowers or whatever you wanted to have them on the headstone, that's fine. Or if you wanted to have four times a year for 3 days a wreath that sits in the ground, I'm fine with that. But for all year to be able to go over there and have those artificial flowers, the mess we've got now, I want to change that. Because it's not fair to the families that want a nice kept cemetery plot opposed to some of them over there are heinous. I mean, it is what it is. And that's just what I'm saying. So I think our policy's ready to go, except number 5. Is that correct? Yeah. Policy's ready to present to council, except number 5.
The flowers.
Okay.
And the decorations.
But here's the indigestion that I've got. What you said. So you're going to have 4 times a year. They can have 30 days to do what they want. So that's a fourth of the month, and then a fourth of the year. A fourth of the year is dead of winter. I mean, so basically, your growing season or your pretty times of the year, let's say, is March to September, even though it's short sleeve and shorts weather.
One more time to you, real quick. Which one are you reading on?
Get it for
Which policy are you trying to
the one in
plagiarize?
The one in right.
Ours?
We don't use the word plagiarizing.
Well,
there's a different term.
Hey, I'm all for it if it's legal.
The last page, and it's the one in rice. And I think it's got some good sense there. It says, artificial flowers are permitted any time as long as they are in a bronze vase, except for during a period beginning 3 days before and ending 1 week after each of the 4 special days: Easter, Sunday, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, and Father's Day.
You can't leave out Christmas out.
We can act Christmas, if you want to.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. You're gonna start. You're gonna start saying, well, you can't leave this day out and that day out, and before you know it, I mean, is there any way we can do like a bronze vase on top of the headstone? You can put them there anytime you want
You
to?
can put the baskets or whatever you call it, what do they call it, saddles? The saddle, you can do those anytime.
I just don't want it on the ground, and I don't want any I mean,
That cemetery is filled up with poinsettias during the Christmas time. And if y'all line through there during the holidays, not many lots that are not.
but I don't really have a problem with it at Christmas. Number one, I'm a big poinsettia fan, and I love the holiday. But we're not in there cutting grass and trying to, we might be trying to get leaves up, but
The way they address it is potted plants are not permitted except beginning 3 days before and ending 1 week after the 4 special holidays. If you want to add Christmas, it would be the 5th special holiday. That way they can keep the poinsettia up there a week after and 3 days before Christmas.
do you like the sounds of that?
Well,
I'm just trying to throw something against the wall.
yes, I know it. Until the, what'd you say, the 1st of March?
And then everything goes out 1st of March.
All right, well, you could back that thing up the 1st of December. Let them do what they want to do, and the 1st of March, everything goes.
Oh, you mean for Christmas stuff?
For anything, I mean, they're gonna clean it up. There is no cutting grass up there during the winter time. Say 1st of December.
How hard is if you talking about so you could, are you saying you would permit, I don't know what to call it, and I'm not, if I knew the family name I wouldn't say it out loud, but it looks like tulips, when you plant tulips, 2 turn into 4 and then 4 turn into 8. That's what it looks like, artificial flowers. There's no way anybody in the world could do around. Are you talking about that, or you talking about like poinsettia in a potted plant? Anything you say anything goes, that scares me half to death.
You're filming a very touchy situation here.
Tell me about it.
Tell me about
You're filming somebody's loved one.
I know. But we're also a corporate municipality that has got to maintain it.
You got December, January, February, and 1st of March. That's 3 months. I don't put what they want to put on there for the holiday, Christmas season, because the town gonna move everything March the 1st.
In March.
I think it makes sense. Everything goes out in March.
Well, all right, let me ask you this. Are you agreeable to that with no artificial flowers on the ground? They've got to be in a container of some kind?
I'm not agreeable to it.
So you just want to be able to stick artificial flowers all over a grave?
Let them do what they want to during those 3 or 4 months.
What do you think?
Well, if they're gonna move, gonna clean it up in March, then everything will be gone, like you said.
And then from that point on, it's got to be off the ground?
Why don't you guys take these home?
No. This is the only time I get to.
I don't know about that. Everything off the ground. I mean, those cemeteries that you stopped in, no doubt, were memorial gardens that are in to make a profit. This is a town cemetery.
Right.
Trinity, up here in Farmville, you ride right by it. That cemetery is there to make a profit. It's a private person that owns that cemetery.
I don't doubt that.
I know it is.
I didn't, because I didn't see any. I don't remember seeing any kind of town shield or sign or
No, sir. It's owned by a lady that worked in the office that was owned by Charles Shorter, who ran Shorter Film on up there. He bought it from a corporation.
You talking about Newmarket or you talking
No,
about
I'm
Rice?
talking about Trinity.
Trinity.
I'm using that as an example.
Gotcha.
You don't
And Rice.
know.
Rice, okay.
And that's run for profit. They cut that grass with machines, and of course, everything is flat with the ground. You don't have family stones, family monuments, whatever you want to say out there. You better do a little thinking on this thing before we come up with.
I was thinking, do you think you need to get, maybe have a little public hearing and see what the people think?
Okay.
They have a lot of different opinions.
Yeah,
but
I
You
think
don't
we're.
think so? That might be opening up a hornet's nest or
Yes,
something.
ma'am. That's well said. No, I think we need to present a policy. We've been, I'm derelict in my responsibility as chairman of this committee. We should have done it 3 years ago. And this is what we're here for, to work out something that we can all agree with. And I'm leaning heavily on your expertise.
Well, that's,
Or you can do just like Crew does. And Crew is pretty basic, not too terribly far off from what we are, and they've got a nice cemetery. Their cemetery looks good, and it says, no trees, shrubs, ivies, flowers of a permanent nature shall be planted. Cut flowers, potted plants, and artificial designs may be placed on the lots and receptacles approved by the town and removed when they no longer add beauty to the lot.
Well,
And that leaves it pretty well open.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly.
Well, the beholder would be the administrator, which is
Bingo.
is
He
Philip.
took my $500 flower arrangement, and so
There you go, the catch in that thing is what's approved by the town. What are we gonna approve, what are we gonna approve?
We're gonna leave. It's gonna have to. That'd be the. Do you see that in there quite a bit? That'd be the discretion of the administrator.
it's pretty common when it doesn't add beauty to it anymore. I don't relish the thought of going down there and saying this one's nice or this one's not. When it's somebody's child and Winnie the Pooh bears and all kinds of stuff, nobody likes to do that. But
Well, that's a great point, Mr. Hanmer. I mean, if Trinity is a for-profit organization, we really need to get out of that. We need to leave that alone as a example. So I'm more apt to.
how about trying something like this? We can do the flowers, or we can do one arrangement per grave. Okay,
Per
one.
grave or per lot?
Pardon?
Per grave or per lot?
I'm not sure what the difference is between a grave. You talking 4
Grave
graves?
is one, a lot, full lot is 8 graves. 4 graves is half a lot.
No, I think the intention was, after we talked the last time when David made the presentation, that for individual graves, one arrangement of flowers, right? But I do think the bigger problems are not just the flowers. We can tell when a flower is faded and looks bad. I think I can justify picking up something that's been there 6 months. But I think the things like the easels with the decorations and the arrangements, I think those are the things that that are more of a problem than anything. And those are the things where we have to sit back and say maybe 4 times a year or 5 times a year you're going to be able to do those kinds of things 3 days ahead of time or a week ahead of time. And you know what I'm talking about with the easels and the motorcycle tires that are sitting out there? I think those are the
I don't
ones.
think your motorcycle tires are appropriate out there at any time.
Liquor bottles, all that kind of
That's
stuff.
what I'm talking about.
I think all of it needs to,
The poinsettias.
if it ain't
and things,
an arrangement,
Easter lilies and
a
that
flower
kind of thing.
arrangement, or an American flag, and I think they put Confederate flags out, but that's the old section. I don't think that applies to this, because the old section is a little bit on the different. The American flags, obviously, we need to waive that they do that on, I don't know, Betty Branham puts it out at least once or twice a year. It's the bigger arrangement is if you want to, leave one arrangement per grave at a time. We can work around that. That's going to take the more, the intensive ones when they just have flowers and flowers and flowers, and then just allow the easels where they have flower arrangements that are set out. Do that 4 or 5 times a year, and when they start to look bad, they get taken down.
That suits you?
Yeah, that doesn't mean that everything has got to be on top of the stone, then.
It doesn't have to be on top of the stone, and it allows it for every grave, as people requested at the last meeting, but it doesn't overload us with the 50 flower arrangements on one grave. It needs to be one per grave, okay? And then you can still make it as a discretionary call, but at least the easels and the statues and the flags and all that sort of thing is 1 time or 4 times a year,
5.
5 times a year,
Well,
3
that's
days
up to the
before and
committee.
1
I
week
mean, if
after.
we're gonna plagiarize it, which one was it?
That's right.
Rice?
Cleans off the grave after funeral.
Number 5.
Pound up.
Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Father's Day, and we'll add Christmas. Is that correct?
Stephen, I was talking to
Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Father's Day, and we'll add Christmas.
to make it Christmas.
Okay.
And the flowers, what the town of Cruz says, be placed on the lots in receptacles approved by the town. I wouldn't get into all that. If you're not gonna enforce making them have a specific one, I would leave it as broad as that. Because I can tell you, everybody's gonna have a different one. It's gonna be a plastic one, it's gonna
So
be.
what do you suggest?
I just one flower arrangement per grave site.
Okay, all right.
Okay. And then leave it alone. If we need to come back and address it, that's being abused and we're getting broken flowers. But we don't want to take flowers up any more than we have to, but
Okay.
when they look bad, they look bad.
Okay, the other issue is on that paragraph 2 on page 3 is it says 3 days before and ending 1 week after.
After.
Is that too long, or is that, Mr. Hamner, is that too long to leave them up? Is that appropriate? Too short? I mean, I'm clueless.
3 days before and 1 week after those 5 holidays.
That's good.
That's
All right?
good? Okay. You good with that?
And then the last thing is, March 1st of every year, we're gonna clean everything out. Everything comes up.
Okay.
And then we start back that cycle with Easter and.
Well, Easter would be the first day. Is that agreeable to you? Sounds like we got a policy here. Okay, so you're gonna work, you're gonna take care of bullet number 5
Correct.
with what we've discussed today. Is that correct? And then we'll have a completed cemetery policy to present to council.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to recommend to council?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. You have a cemetery policy to present. Okay? All right? Anything else concerning the cemetery, or anything else concerning the cemetery or other building grounds?
We've got another appeal to move the headstone,
Okay.
and the cemetery policy hasn't been formally adopted. Same part of town over there, the Dalton family again would like to move the headstone on a 2-lot grave that Sharon donated to Warren, and Warren would like to be able to put a family stone on it.
Has the stone been put down?
If the stone hadn't been put there, then would recommend the council to deny the request.
It just came up, and Gwen and David can explain more to you. I don't know when you got the request, this week or
Last week.
Moving those stones or moving remains bothered me, but if it hadn't been placed, then I'm making a motion. Is there a second?
Now, what are we moving?
They want to deviate from the policy that we've had, and the stone hasn't been set yet.
This is a 8 grave section, is that correct?
4 grave section,
This is a 4 grave section.
and they want to offset, usually the stone, you put in the middle, but they want to offset the stone like
Just like Sharon.
Sharon did, to be able to handle one.
Sharon one place, both in one place.
But the problem we had with her was we either had to bend the rule or she had to move it.
Right.
This hadn't been placed.
Done yet.
And that's where I draw the line. So that's why I'm moving, that we recommend the council to deny the request. Is there a second?
Well, I don't really know enough about it, what she wants to do.
Bring up here and get President Thompson up to speed.
No, we
Bring
have
the
a huge amount
diagram.
of data, but again, with a 4 grave request, remember, these are the 4 graves that Sharon had, that she gave to Warren to and gave somebody else to.
Well, Warren, she made a deal with Warren, that if he would give his 2 graves to Charles and Peggy Stewart, when Charles died, that she would give him 2 of her graves
Right.
out of the 4
But
grave
these were
plots.
formerly part of the 8 grave section that Cecil's buried in. Okay? And as you know, we've been back and forth over this. The headstone is supposed to go in the center of the 4 graves. Okay? Because Warren only has 2. He's asking that the headstone be slid over instead of being in the center.
Well, now, wait a minute here. So if I want to buy 2 graves, will you sell me 2 graves?
In that section?
Mm-hmm.
No, we'll sell it to you in the 2 grave section. The only reason this is the case is because Sharon gave them away so that she could.
Okay.
If you remember, the policy said in 8 grave lots, everything's in the center. And Sharon came back and said, well, I gave away 4. I've only got a 4 now, and it didn't specifically say on the 4s.
Right.
Okay? And now Warren's
Does it
asking
say
for
in
the
the
same
4?
consideration.
Does it say in the 4 section?
It's going to. I mean, the policy
Okay.
that's going to council next week. or
But
next month.
has that been the practice in the past?
It's been the practice to put it in the center of the 4s, right?
See, that's why I made the motion. But I didn't want, we didn't have it in stone on the other one, and she's already got it set, or you got to dig somebody up. That's a big deal to me.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
This here is different. You're deviating from the way you've done policies in the past, and it hasn't been installed.
The whole thing's very messy. The graves were dedicated and donated and given and moved, and it's an 8 grave section, and now we've got 2 graves and 4 grave sections because lots were given away to
Do you need any more information?
clearly not apply with the headstone
Very
requirement.
sensitive thing.
Well, it's
to me.
sensitive, yeah, but. Mr. Hamlin? Do you need any more information?
No.
All right, I need a second to the motion.
I'm not gonna vote for it. I'm not gonna, vote not to do it, or whichever.
Right.
I'm gonna go along with what Sharon has asked for.
What do you want to do?
I put it.
I'm moving to deny the request to deviate from the policy because it's not already in the ground. Nor do we have to exhume someone.
So I'll second it.
All right, and then I guess it's going to be a 2-to-1 vote. So all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Nay.
Nay. 2-to-1. 2-to-1 vote to recommend the council to not allow the deviation.
Armory.
Okay, Armory. Okay, Armory Group, we are all ears. Now let me just lay down some rules and regulations and tell you give everyone that's listening or in attendance how this works. This is a committee meeting, and the committees have no jurisdiction or power of anything in this town. It's improper for town manager to ask me as a member of the committee or the chair of the committee, can I do this or can I do that? No, I cannot make those decisions. So that being said, typically I do not allow back and forth with the constituents because it's not fair to the 4 that aren't here to hear your comments. But being that we have made this public, that we were going to have this meeting, and it's also being recorded, I don't have a problem with it because Mr. Scott can easily go online and see what his constituents are saying. So if you want to come to the podium and speak with us, it's kind of like a town hall, you're free to do so.
Well, we're here, Ben, to answer your questions. We had originally...
If you want to speak, you can come to the podium so you can be recorded, and you can...
I have no reason to speak unless you have any questions for the Armory. We're here to answer your questions.
Okay.
We had made a request to the Finance Committee, to the town manager about a month or so ago by seeking a possible financing for the Armory.
Right.
Right, and that's the last we heard to it before we knew you called this meeting.
I did. I was asked to call this meeting, and this is the 4th attempt that we have made to be available to y'all. And I know some of them, we're not going to get into all that, but we're here.
Right.
We're here, and we're listening.
Right.
Okay? So when this, and I'm not real good at this history, I know Philip will be able to pick me up when I fall here, but when we started this journey 3 years ago or whatever it was, and your committee was formed, your committee, Save the Armory, the town endorsed your committee, and that you were going to begin finding a viable way to finance the Armory through donations, historical tax credits, grants, and that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And yeah, I know there's no question. I don't think anybody here or anybody listening would question how much work and how much diligence you've done and your dedication to the Armory. And we were told in this committee that you wouldn't be seeking public funds, that you were sitting in the back row, third one from the aisle, and I asked the question, and you said, no, we're going to do it with outside money. That was what you said. That's what we were led to believe.
No, sir, that would be incorrect.
Okay, all right.
No, that would be incorrect.
Okay, then what were we told, so we know?
We were told we would do with the least amount of cost to the town's tax.
Okay, all right. Well, I for one, didn't receive that communication as well as I should have, and I think some others didn't either.
Well, we've told you that, Ben, numerous times over the last 2 or 3 years. You just refused to listen to that each time we said it, and you've just gone back to the same story. We've always told you that. We're on record for that.
Okay,
You can check your own minutes. It says
okay. Well, I'm not aware of those minutes. Maybe when the clerk gets back, clerk gets back, I'll get her
Yeah,
to
Ben,
look that up.
we're here to serve the public, to do the very best job for the citizen, and at the end of the day, to show the citizens and the town the very best bang for the buck, which is the Harris Memorial Armory.
Okay, all right. That's fine. That's fine. So, basically, what your group has come up with is you've raised what, $55,000? Is that? I'm not privy to
We raised approximately $55,000 towards the effort, then, basically, which is a small amount. That's what we had originally said we would try to raise $100,000.
Right.
We're very close to doing that, and if the town would commit, we've already had, for example, one prominent local citizen say he would pay for all the bathroom renovation, which could be $30,000-$40,000, which puts us very close to that $100,000.
Right.
And he said all he's waiting for is the shoe to drop in the town.
Well, I understand that, and it brings credibility if the town would say we were gonna do the project and provide the financing. I think it would be some donations. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with
You have
that.
to understand too, that we've also, all the donations given to us shows a large amount of credibility towards our organization. I keep seeing where the town each month is not giving any donations, and people see us trying very hard to do this. We have a plan. I brought an architect with me today that did all the studies on the armory. As part of what we want to do for the town, we're willing to help him work with you on ideas that you have with other facilities or other things. If you're going to try to estimate something of the cost of a building somewhere else, certainly I have hard numbers, and it's hard for me, for example. I wouldn't have a clue how to estimate the cost of a building. I'm a beer and wine salesman, just like you sell cars. And what he does, what he does with Barbara, it's hard to tell him there's something costs. So we brought our expert of us today to help you and help the town, because you have expressed a desire to build this town a community center, which I think is admirable. You've said it at a council meeting, we'd like to do something for the community that we could afford. And that's why Brian, by the way, his name is Green too, Brian Green is here today to try to help us too, because he can give a good opinion. There is nobody alive that knows more about the Harrison Moore Armory than this gentleman here. And he's from a very reputable Richmond firm that does this for a living. He's the kind of guy that can look at your school property or any kind of property and give the town and the taxpayers an idea what something's going to cost us. Because then I'm a very frugal guy. My fireman knew me as a frugal fire chief. My business is frugal, and I do not spend anybody's money, including the town's money, unless I'm 100% sure of what I'm doing. I do not do estimates from the hip.
I understand it. But at this point, I don't mind guesstimating so that we can present a concept to the council.
Yeah, guesstimating's fine.
Okay.
I think we're there because we've got some pretty good numbers.
I mean, once we get so basically the Armory Group is asking the town to finance the balance of what is your estimate to, what would be an estimate? Come to the podium so everybody can hear.
Yeah.
What would you think?
This project originally started with an estimate from the group that worked on this thing as a $3 million project for a historical renovation.
Right.
I've never been comfortable with that because your number one concern was that we had a building that was efficient and was very easy to reconfigure to any kind of use,
Right.
and it could be used. So I went back to Brian back in June, and that's when I brought you those other figures. And I said, Brian, what could you do if we could get an insulated building that was up to date, that we could change, put a roof on it, maybe like the Courier Record has, that lasts 100 years, 50 or 60, 75 years, is painted, that has windows like this building or the fire station, and has maybe stucco like Citizens Bank and brick, and he says it drops the price $1 million. So when the price of something that was going to take historical tax credits and a lot of hoops and things to jump through, which we could do very easily, and I know the town could do, and I have the confidence in Philip, because Philip and I have talked about numerous times about how good he is. At the same time, to have something that we could pull back and be ours for $1.9 million or maybe $2 million, and I'm one of those kind of guys who say, well, something's going to cost $1 million, it probably cost $1.2 million, it'll probably cost, $1.9 million, it'll probably cost about a 2.25 or 2.25, because it's always cost overruns. I'm a realist about that. And when you start talking about building community centers, and you realize that 2 homes in Epidon Forest is pretty close to that price, or 3 homes, that's not a lot of money to spend. So we came to Philip about 2 months ago because losing Jennifer Hausman had called me weekly, sometimes every other day, emailed me all the time at DHCD, and we'd kind of lost connection losing Jennifer. So when I met with Philip, it was an idea of trying to get Yvonne and the town restarted on where we should go to try to take the Armory forward. His idea was, listen, don't try to do grants. He says, let's try to do this thing straight up. You've got a little bit of money in the town's, has a little bit of money in its town thing. Maybe we could get a plan from Davenport just to find if we could even afford this or not. And that's the only reason we asked, because we don't know. He's the expert, and you're the finance committee guy.
Well, what I want to do today is, let me just answer, let me make a couple of comments about your remarks. it is a lot of money. $2 million, and I don't know of three homes over there. I don't know of three $667,000 homes in Epping Forest. Maybe you do, but I don't. But it's a lot of money. If you amortize it 10 years, it's $22,000 a month. Is that what it is, Philip?
I've got some amortization scheduled that Jennifer ran for me, and using a round number, $2 million for 10 years, and we use 4% interest. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but we borrowed money below 4%. But using 4%, which is usually the Virginia Resource Authority kind of thumbnail, is $20,249 a month.
So it's a lot of money. It's a tremendous amount of money, and we don't want to lose sight of that. Now, I'm not trying to say that I'm not interested in saving that building, but I am interested in not skewing the truth. Everybody needs to know up front that it's going to be a costly endeavor. You mentioned about what I want. I haven't changed what I want from the very beginning. I'm anti-blight, and I would love to see a community center. And we live in a low to moderate income place, and I know there are children in school that don't have access to computers. That I'd love to see us have a computer lab somewhere, maybe in the library building we're in now. Those are my interests, and I don't mind telling you the honest truth. And I hope y'all will speak up how you feel. When I ride by it drives me crazy. I put it on the ground. When I walk through it, I weep because we haven't done it 20 years ago. That's the truth. I don't know how to be any more truthful with you. So every time I walk through that building, I look at it and I say, you don't have the people that have the skills to build that building today. Yeah, we can build a building inside the building. It's probably the smartest way to do.
Ben, you just said it, it's the least expensive, the most responsible thing to the town taxpayer. If the town needs to make a decision, not right now, but to do the armory, before you can even make a decision about the armory, this council's got to decide, does it want a community center, yes or no? And then the armory should come, is that the right place, yes or no?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And that's why we're here today. That's why we're here today, is to hear from y'all. What do you want to see out of it? How do you propose? Do you have any suggestions on how we would finance it, and that kind of thing?
That's why we're here. We asked Philip for his advice, and he was the one that gave us his stellar advice to contact the finance committee and talk to Davenport and the town to see how much it costs. It doesn't hurt to check.
The problem is the amount of effort and work that y'all have done to raise $50-some thousand, to give it to Davenport.
We're not going to give our money. Y'all going to use your $3,000, Philip.
No, I'm not going to use any town money because we've got a schedule right here. I don't need to. Now, if we decide to take a swing, then yeah, bond council's the way to go. But to hire Davenport to do what an 89-cent app will do, no, I don't see the need of it.
I took the
until
advice
until the concept comes out of committee and goes to council, and council says they want to dedicate this kind of money, then I don't see the need to hire anybody.
Right. We're just here because it was his suggestion to run this through you, and that's what I'm trying to do. We're trying to do this. People
are all confused about me personally, my seat and my role as the chairman of this committee and the chair of finance. They're confused. Let me lay it on the line. When we've heard talk that this town could do it before, that was the most ludicrous thing I'd ever heard in my life. The town can put together a financing plan with a 10-year lease from Bon Secours, which we don't have. If we got a 10-year lease out of Bon Secours, and the town wanted to invest $20,000 for debt service, and then, I've heard some people say you don't need staff, and some people say you do. I don't know. What do? You just come get a key to the armory? That's not that. My granddaddy would say that dog's not gonna hunt. You'd have to have some staff there. Well, stick DBI in there, okay? That would put a stop to all their budget worries. They've got a home. They're providing a service to the community. There's a lot of win-wins in it. But like I said, I am pro armory building. It's a matter of whether or not the town can afford to put $20,000 a month for 10 years into a building and then staff it. Or is it a matter of we should bank? We have $5-6 million in bond debt.
About $13 million.
$13 million in bond debt. Should we attack that? That's the question before us. Okay, so I feel like I know everything I need to know. Now is your opportunity to ask President Thompson questions, or she may have questions for you. Same thing with Councilman Hamler. Okay, but that's the reason that I brought this to the forefront. I don't have any ulterior motives, but the fact of the matter is the building is sitting there deteriorating, and it's been punted from one council to another. I even had one councilman berate me in the paper that sat up here for I don't know how many years, and it sat there. It's time. I mean, we're elected officials. It's time to make a plan. It's time to make a plan to do something with that building.
Yes, sir, and it
And
should
it
be the
drives
town's
me
community
crazy.
center.
And like I told you the truth. When I ride by it, I want to bulldoze it down. When I walk through it, I'm in tears because it should have been fixed 30 years ago. That's the truth.
Mr. Chairman, if you may very quickly, I'm going to hand out some of these amortization schedules, and the purpose of the 2 dates on here, and you can go longer, you can stretch these things out as long as you want, but Bon Secours has offered a 5-year lease.
Right.
That's what the chairman was just speaking of.
What's the value of the Bon Secours building? $2 million? $3 million?
2.2 to build it, I can look on whatever.
So you've got a $2 million asset. If they don't lease it, you can sell, right? Or one that's leasable. I don't think you'll have any problem leasing a building in Blackstone after
Well, I
5
got
years.
75 cars sitting down here on North Main Street, and I think they're worth what they're worth. It depends on
If you
somebody driving up and buying
remember,
them.
you just released a building. You can't say in 5 years, you can't say the
I tell you what
sky's
I
gonna
can't
fall.
do, Mr. Osborne, is I can't obligate my 3,700 bosses to a debt service without having something in.
Again, Ben, it's a decision the
No.
council's got to make. Do you want a community center,
Well,
yes
I
or
think
no?
if you
Because
wanna-
if you do,
I
the
think-
Armory is the #1 best solution by far.
I think if you present that option to the council, you're gonna get 7 no's, okay?
I mean, that's what
I
you've
mean-
got to decide. You can't get rid of, you cannot surplus a building if you do not know what you're going to do as an out. If you do not know you need a community center for this building, for this town, why would you say you own a community center? That just makes no sense at all.
If I may very quickly to touch on that, as part of our ongoing efforts to update our comprehensive plan, the process that was started, I think, in 2009 or 2010, and was 10 years behind back then, and Yvonne's working on it, she's doing a town-wide survey. She may have talked to you or
Yeah,
something.
that's what we were working on, a survey to find out about the needs of the community center.
Part of her survey in the comprehensive plan update is going to be, and you gotta word it correctly, is going to address the community center. It's not gonna say Armory, it's not gonna say something different, it's gonna say community center. And by all accounts, you're welcome to sit down with Yvonne, find out what she's proposing to do, but it's intended to be part of a survey that's issued townwide. Hopefully we get a big return, hopefully we get 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever, and ask folks in that survey, what do you think?
We raised $900 just last weekend, so we don't mind waiting for a survey. We're raising money all the time. Our group is engaged. We've got, Ben, again, if you want an opinion on the school property, I got a man right here. We'd be glad to work with you. And be glad to work with you on trying to get you a price, just so you'll know, because I do not want to befoozle or sidetrack or trick anybody, okay? I'm straight up. If that building over there, you can do something over there cheaper than the Armory and better than the Armory, I'm for it. Fine, because I'm a taxpayer. Okay, I'm fine with that.
I guess my point is if you decide that you're gonna amortize this for 5 years, and we've got $13,000 coming in, it's impossible. If you could get Bon Secours to do a 10-year amortization, they would make, the payment would be $22,780, and we'd be taking in 13. We've got to find $10,000. That's $12,000. That's $120,000 a year, and I know how we could do that through meals tax increase, lodging increase, and a small transfer from the electric fund. I can see that, but that's why I started all this. That's why I said, because now you have an avenue to do it. But if you're facing a $36,000 payment and you've got to augment $24,000, then there's no avenue of doing that. So it's all based on whether or not you can get a 10-year lease and whether or not council wants to put $22,780 $780 a month into a building.
Well, it sounds like to me it's pretty important, whoever's doing the negotiating for the town should maybe go back to bond secure and maybe sell the idea, if you go another 5 years, you can lock that rate in, because it's good for us and it's good for them.
Well,
And
we're trying to do that
well,
now.
then-
That
then-
would be
well,
our,
then let's
that
just
would be
wait.
our, excuse
Yeah,
me,
okay,
excuse me,
okay.
excuse
Yes,
me.
sir.
That would be our due diligence as a finance committee to try to get a 10-year lease. I mean, so
We'd
it's
like to
not,
do
it's
that.
not, we haven't tried that. I mean, we've sent letters and we've made phone calls, we're trying.
Well, we'd like for you to try
But
and.
we have a feeling that what we've been told is, instead of getting $15,000 a month for 5 years, we're looking at getting $8,000 or $9,000. So you're in the same boat. So we're working those options.
Mm-hmm. So
We're
we don't
trying.
know.
No, we don't know. What we know is we have an offer right now that would net us, would you comfortably say 14,000 after our maintenance and expenses?
Yeah, after we pay cans to ourselves, we gotta put something in there, cut the grass and do all those kind of things, so.
So,
If you were to use 14, 15, whatever you use, but I think that's probably a more realistic figure than every dime. You gotta put something aside to fix a roof 10 years from now.
We've got a huge amount of trust in Philip and y'all working through this. If I had asked this committee anything, let's just wait. We've got time. We're taking care of the building. You know, the building's taken good care of, it's being used. Let's get an answer, because this is important for the community, and it could be a win-win for everybody in this room if just one person says, yeah, we'll do it for 5 more years at this. So certainly, I don't think we can make a decision today based on not knowing all this stuff.
I'm sorry, you say we do.
I don't think you can make any kind of decision today
You
or
would say
anything.
do 5 more years?
I said, if y'all could get 5 more years and make us, I said, I think y'all need some time to talk to Bond Secure, and you kind of know where we're coming from. I mean, Ben, I live here, I grew up here, and I've never lied to anybody in this room. We just want things to be
Well,
right,
now, Mac,
okay?
I'm not a carpetbagger either. I've been here since 1989.
And I'm not saying that, but I'm
and I've
saying
held
you guys.
every position that can be
No.
held in this town except Rotary.
No, this is about me telling you, about me talking to this council. Barbara's known me since I walked in here as a fire lieutenant many, many years ago, and Wade knew me the time I had to call when I need him to bury Mom. You know, y'all know me, I'm straight up, and it ain't no BS about what I'm saying or anything like this. We want to get along. We think this could be a uniting thing for this whole community. A town municipality, and I keep hearing what Sam mentioned sometime about core government. And core government, you're exactly right about a lot of things. But what makes a community is its groups, its networking groups, and people who operate out of a center of community or a place that makes community strong. Rotary, DBI, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, basketball, baseball, rec association, fire department, all these groups. It would make Blackstone so strong to have a place, put us on equal ground with the communities around us. We need a place like this, and I applaud y'all for the work you're doing, and that's all I got to say. Thank you, okay?
Before you leave the podium,
Yeah.
we-
And I want to ask a question. Nobody's mentioned the cost of the work that we would get from Davenport. How much would that cost us?
You mentioned 3, but I don't know if that was, you just threw that out.
Roland directly, and his opinion was bond counsel and advisory role, about 24,000.
24,000?
Yes.
Bond counsel and financial advisor, about half. 12,000.
that and engineering is the new place to be, trust me.
Engineering, I'll tell you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of the engineering projects that it's just staggering prices. That's the reason, you understand why I said I wasn't interested in employing when I can do a simple amortization schedule?
Well, that's what
You know.
scares us about any other building. It's important that any building you could, I own a house in Westwood Drive that's got radon in it. Who knew that? You know, and it was $5,000 for me to fix it. You don't know what you buy when you buy something from somebody else, and it's good that to have somebody like Mr. Green or somebody, and y'all get ready to do this, we've got people to help. We're here. A
Well,
501
I needed to
yeah,
know
okay.
what you thought the number would be, and your number was on the penny to my number. 2.25 million is what I thought would make a nice multi-purpose community center. And then that's your number too? 2.5. Well, Philip, you're pretty smart. Last time you were called incompetent, but your number was exactly right. So that's the number I came up with, 2.25 million. That's just to get it done what I envisioned.
In 2002, I built a fire station that supposedly was a $1 million fire station, and you know what we're dealing with today. And of course, that was sidewalks and drainage and everything else involved. And there's so many costs that even the town couldn't tell how much it cost when it ended. You know, y'all inherited some of those problems. But it's important, I think, as a citizen, that we know something's gonna cost from zero to the end into ribbon cutting, and how much it's gonna cost to operate it. Again, I will make a mention, how many, and I asked Philip, how many people in this building have enough room? How many offices in this building have enough room? None of them?
Me?
Really, but is there room in this office for, room in this building for one more office to be built? Really?
We're about built up.
Yeah. Again, you've got 2.87 acres over there that you can do anything with around it, and it's a town building. You know, it just.
Well, I understand all that, and I just want to open the floor for Mr. Hamner and President Thompson. If y'all have any questions you want to speak to Walter Mack or any other member, or anybody else want to speak?
No, I don't have any questions, but I would like to say that I am in favor of renovating the armory if possible.
I think everything's been covered, all it matters.
All right. Does anyone else wish to come to the podium and speak?
I'm not from here, as all of you know. I came here to Fort Pickett. I'm not Blackstonian. I grew up in Hampton, Virginia, and went in the military for 15 years and came back and ended up at Pickett. And I love this area. I do more for this town than I do for my own town in Richmond. I don't do anything there that I do here. I'm a member of 5 organizations here in this town. When I was in the military out at Pickett, I never got to see that armory because we had the newer armory. So I had never seen it. I never knew anybody who had a key to it that I could go, hey, I'd like to see it. So, but all we knew out of Pickett, even up until I retired, everything that I was being told was that building is falling down. It's deteriorating. It's crumbling to the ground. They need to take a bulldozer to it. First time I went into it was 2 years ago, I guess, when I got tied in with the Armory Group. And maybe it was 3 years ago. And it's a grand old building. It's not falling down like everybody said it was. And I think it's key to our community, especially where it sits. It's right there next to the Carriage Museum, next to Swartz Tavern. It's in the historical district. It was built in 1936. It's got character. It's got everything we need to bring a communal sense back to the town. My concern is we're worried about whether we got $20,000 to build a community center. If you don't use the armory, you don't have $20,000 to build it anywhere else either, and it's going to cost you probably twice that much. So I don't know where you're going to come up with that money. So the armory is the best bang for the buck. It could really bring this community back together, I think.
Barbara, Wade, y'all have anything? Yes, sir. Mr. Eaton?
Thank you, Mr. Green. I just wanted to share with y'all that last weekend during Arts and Crafts, I worked with the Armory. The Armory had an information table set up inside the Armory, and that table saw a lot of activity. And I want you to know that we raised, I believe, over $850 last weekend, selling T-shirts and taking cash donations and raffle tickets, what have you. That's not too bad. That's pretty good. But in addition to that, we also garnered 297 signatures from people that said, yes, I support what y'all are doing. 295 signatures in one day, and that's without begging people for signatures. Very casual. People would come by, oh, absolutely, I'd love to sign your sheet. Those signatures are by people who come to Blackstone, who come to the Arts and Crafts Festival, who come to the Armory Building for an event in the town of Blackstone. These are people that come from Blackstone. They are people that come from Crewe. They come from Nottoway County, maybe some from Dinwiddie County. But they all come and they all recognize, they know what's going on, they read the paper, and they say, yes, I support what y'all are doing. Good work. Keep it up. That's important. And it should be important to you, too. The building can be a wonderful thing for this town. Let it be just that. Thank you, Mr. Green.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Janet Bennell.
Yes, ma'am. If you let me do some simple math, come on up here and get comfy.
So I'm not from here either.
Just give me
I'll give you a
one
minute.
second.
I'll give you a second.
I wish I had one of my twins here to help me operate this piece of equipment here.
They teach you math now and Keston Ben, I never learned. You know that? You notice that?
Oh, yeah, well, I've got them in algebra, and it wasn't that way for me 40 years ago, but anyway. I appreciate your comments, Mr. Eaton. The one thing that I'm not trying to rebut, I'm not trying to spar with you. I respect your opinion, and I respect all the hard work you've done for the town. But the key thing you said was the people from away from here. And, you got 3,700 people that live in the town, and we're a low to moderate income town. They're going to shoulder $22,700 a month. That's about $70 a piece. So that's one of the things that there's some indigestion about. But Bill Gates walks in here and gives us $5 million. Yeah, let's build it tomorrow. But with this mountain of debt we've got, town manager I saw a humorous article in the paper where I'd called him Harry Potter one time. He actually did some wizardry to get all of our debt down to, we've got one, I believe, at 3%, and the rest of it 0%, or close to it. But it's still a mountain of debt. So that's the things that we've got to keep in mind. I'm torn. I'd like to do it tomorrow, but I sure would like to have that $22,000 a month stuck aside, for a rate stabilization program where, we could basically, and I don't think anybody's ever said this, although I do want to do the armory. Let's don't lose the sight. We stick $20-some thousand a month in the bank. We wouldn't raise taxes in this town for 25 years. And that's basically what Nottoway County's been doing. They have got they led the score, I believe, in the state audit system for the amount of reserves they've got. And for every budget that I can remember, they have balanced the budget through reserves. So we've got, I think you're right. I think everybody's right that it could be a great community event. It sure would be nice if I owned a lake home, but I can't afford one. So we got to keep all that in perspective. But anyway, thank you for your comments, and that's incredible amount of participation that you had. I had no idea that you'd raise that kind of money or have that many signatures. But it did answer the question of anybody willing to write a check. Was obviously so. So, yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'm not from here originally either. I came here.
Now, let me stop.
Mid-20s.
I'm chairman here, and I am a little bossy. But you know what? Home is where your heart is, and home is where you hang your hat. And I'm looking at you, Colonel. If there's anybody that considers Blackstone home, it's you. If anybody that considers this town home, is me. I lived in 25 different places until I found Blackstone, and I can promise you I will be buried in Lakeview Cemetery. No question. Now, the next time I move is going to be in a house that doesn't have 64 stairs. And it's going to be out in the country. I already know where the place is going to be. But it'll be in Nottoway County, I can promise you. So for you to sit here and have to justify that you're not from here is ridiculous, because you're a Blackstonian through and through. And so is everyone else involved in this project.
I am very much so.
And if the crazy thing is, I gave this as an example in a council meeting. Mm-hmm. Canada it's a fascinating thing, and I might get the numbers skewed, but I can make the point. Is 100 miles or 50 miles from U.S. border is 90% of their population. And there's probably 3 times as many people that live outside the corporate limits of Blackstone that call Blackstone home. And, you know, I run into people all the time, and I'm from Blackstone. Well, I'm from Blackstone. They live over behind the old Grove Drive-In, have a crew address, but you ask them where they live, I live in Blackstone. So the notion of when you moved here or you were born and bred here is nonsense to me. If it's your home, it's your home. Please carry on with your delightful remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Green. So I came here in my mid-20s, and you know, all my community work, all my involvement, all
You
my
are a
local
newcomer,
government,
aren't you?
it's been here.
You are a newcomer then.
You know, it's 18 and a half years ago. I ended up on Lunenburg Avenue and never left. You know, and I don't ever want to leave. I love Blackstone. I love what Blackstone represents. I love the spirit of Blackstone. I love the feeling. At work, you know, I'm one of the administrators at the Woodland now, and we have a saying, we have a feeling, it's called leading by walking around. It's called, you know, learning how your building feels. It's learning how what's going on feels. It feels different regarding the Armory right now. You know, a few years ago, there was a vote, I think it was 6-1 for the town. You know, they created a resolution. We're going to fix the Armory. So our group got together. We worked on finding grants. We worked on bringing Brian in. We contacted DHCD. You cannot say that we slacked on that. Not that y'all have, because you haven't. But we have organized. We have become incredibly involved. We have networked. We have brought Blackstone to parts of the state that people didn't really know about because of that Armory. We have done a very good job selling our town and selling our vision and selling who we are and where we want to be. So when I come in, so frankly, when, you know, the last couple weeks, the feeling has been different. I don't like it when the feeling changes. I don't like that because there's disruption there, and you get a lot of crossed signals. You get a lot of mixed interpretations of what's going on. So in a nutshell, we had the resolution. We did a huge amount of work. We were told, hey, you know, let's not pursue grants. We can do this with town money. We have a plan. We can do this. This will be easy. Great. That's fantastic. So we kind of held off on pursuing the grants. So now what I'm hearing is, well, if we can't do this with town money, if we can't get the money from bonds to cores, we're just going to have to 86 it and surplus it. Why, if we can't get the money from bonds to cores, why can't we go back to the original plan where we were successfully finding grants? We were successfully making connections with DHCD. We were successfully finding funding for this. So I just want to remind you that looking at bonds to cores is an option. And the original plan can be returned to.
Well, that's fine.
Easily.
That's fine.
Hold on, whoa,
That's
not
fine.
done, not
Go
done.
ahead.
But let us remember, we have proven our community wants this. I don't think anybody would disagree with me. We have proven that our community wants this and desires it. We have proven that our local school system wants to be involved in it. We have proven that colleges across Virginia want to use classroom space there if it's available to hold classes. We have proven that the public wants input on this. And we have proven that if we have those classes in there, that we will generate more money for the town through mills tax. We have proven, more than I can say, that we are on the right track with this. Now, if y'all want to, if we want to do it with bonds to cores, and what's holding us back is a 10-year lease, I say this: 5-year lease is not the end of the world. Who would lock themselves into a 10-year lease? Perhaps the 5-year lease is just there so they can renegotiate a deal in 5 years. I don't know. I can't see into the future. Even Harry Potter can't see into the future. Okay. But I say this: if bonds to cores does not come through, I think it would be a mistake to surplus the Armory, because the work that we have done does show that we can do it, not at the $2.25 million cost to the town, which is what you're proposing with bonds to cores, but at a reduced cost because we can find the grants and we can find the historic tax credits. The town would still have a measure of responsibility, but it would be done, and it might even be less. So let's not lose sight that there's more than one option.
Well, I'm entertaining that number. What is that number? Without the bonds.
That's this guy right here.
Well,
That's
is there,
this guy. I
is
would love
there
for him to talk now.
another level of town responsibility that I'm not aware of?
Yep, come on. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come here, ma'am.
Appreciate
sirs.
you
Thank
being here and for all you're doing.
Thank you. Just to be clear, I'm here as a volunteer today. I'm not. I'm not on anybody's dime but my own. Thank you. It was a great opportunity to work on this with you all. This is really a lot of fun. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting in terms of looking at the numbers is we did a bunch of scenarios for the group, and I've continued kind of working through a series of scenarios since then. The assumptions were all the same. We're pretty conservative numbers. We're looking at pretty conservative cost, assuming certain amounts of cost overruns, those sorts of things. So we're looking at pretty conservative, and the same assumptions are stretching through everything. So we're looking at same square footage old, same square footage new. So we were looking at the original, the number you'll see people talking about first, the original rehabilitation number. That was looking at it as though it would be a tax credit project. That's following Secretary of the Interior standards, going to the state, going to the feds. Looking at the gross on that was $2.7 million. That's the gross. Now, coming back out on the net, after you do the state and federal tax credits, the state tax credit is at 25% now, the federal credit's at 20%. There's, you don't get all of that. That's the gross. There's a net as a municipality you have in moving that out to an investor. But the net, and again, using really conservative modeling for that, that comes out at 1.8 million. And that's kind of the high-end route. So just for cost per square footage, that's $162 per square foot. That's the easy number to remember. We also looked at doing a base, just a rehab of the building, not using tax credits. It's just going in, doing whatever you want to do. You know, put in new windows, you want to put in new windows, getting rid of the plaster and putting up gypboard, looking at treating it like the least expensive, just going in and renovating it. That number came out at 1.7. It was the number you mentioned earlier. And that's at $156 a square foot. So we're kind of netting back out. There's kind of two different routes kind of taking you back to a similar number. One's faster, one's slower, but you're kind of ending up, And then, so as a check, I did a second model, or actually it was the 8th model, but we did a model for a new community center, kind of starting with the same assumptions. Let's look at 12,000 square feet. Let's look at code compliant number of bathrooms. Going to have a kitchen. Going to have an auditorium, but a simple auditorium, not anything fancy. I'm not corking the numbers. So sort of a flat seated auditorium with chairs, standard AV equipment, classrooms that you could where you could move the partitions and things like that. It'd be a metal frame building with brick cladding, vinyl windows, and an asphalt roof, flat roof. That came out at 2.5 million. And that, again, that was $216 a square foot. Now, the difference in the cost, why most people assume, well, new construction has to be cheaper. Well, the difference is you got to clear the site. You have existing buildings you've got to get out of the site. There are abatement costs for lead and asbestos, whatever in the building that you have to get away. There are utilities you have to bring to the site. It's a lot of those site costs that really, so it's true when you do an historic building, the windows will drive you crazy because they're really expensive. But it costs a lot less to fix a window than it does to bring in the utilities. And it's bringing in that site work, bringing in the utilities that really kind of drives up the number of new construction versus historic construction. So, so sometimes if you're just looking inside the envelope, a renovation job seems more expensive, but when you look at the whole site and you look at the utilities and all that sort of thing, it's not quite as, quite out of whack. And that's just looking at them as just pure buildings that you do things in, not assigning any historic value, not saying one is more historically important than the other one is prettier than the other. That's just looking at them as continuous.
That's a crying shame, though, that let's talk about
Sure.
the two avenues we could do with the Armory. Is we could partner with the government and use their tax credits and put up with their bureaucracy, and we still got $1.8 million. Or we can just invest $1.8 million and probably do it better with new modern HVAC and insulation. And I understand that. I'm in the middle of an architect project for my dealership, and I understand there's R values up to 80 in the roofing. So But having to, that's just a crying shame
Well,
that
we
they
can-
would put 1.5 or $2 million into a project and we still get the same result.
Yeah, and I've done both kinds of renovation, and I have to say, even doing historic renovations with tax credits, we've actually gotten better R values in a new construction. So a lot of folks will tell you that you can't do it in an old building. You can do it in an old building.
Right.
You know, so you'll end up with, now the difference, the reason your net's a little bit lower on the tax credit than it would be if, you know, you were doing it as a private person with your business, is you as a private person with tax liability, you get to use the tax credits directly. The municipality doesn't have tax liability in the same way, so you have to, can't say sell, you're syndicating it through an investment model, and so you're losing each time it goes through.
You're wholesaling.
Yeah, and so you're really pulling in, I think I was using really conservative numbers, like you're modeling at that like 85% net. You're assuming you're going to lose a bunch off the top. That's why it's a more conservative. So if it were a purely private deal, the credits would outweigh it.
Well, I think I read somewhere Bill Gates is the #1 purchaser of historical tax credits.
Is he? God bless him.
You know, he just,
Yeah.
because he's paying 85 cents on the dollar on taxes.
Yeah, it's a good, you know, and it's a good investment. The number varies. The federal credits, you typically get a higher number because it's a bigger investor pool. The state credit pool is a little bit lower. That's why we're kind of blending those numbers.
But either way, at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to cut you off,
No,
but
no,
at
no.
the end of the day, regardless of which way we go, we're still looking at the town coughing up $1.8 million. And that's what we have to decide. Do we want to make that investment? And I told everyone here the truth, and I've always been that way. I hate blight. When I ride by it, I want to knock it down. When I walk through it, I want to cry because I wish it was done 20 years ago. I can't be any more honest. And I've also told a few people privately, and I'll tell it publicly. I'm not going to take this project on with a divided council. Not going to do it. You know, maybe a 6-1 vote because we got a crabby councilman sits down. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Monica, I didn't see you say.